What men always misunderstand about attraction. Have you ever felt this way? You give everything you can to prove you're worthy. You text her every day, you pay attention to every little detail. You show up whenever she needs you. And yet, all you receive in return is coldness. The more effort you put in, the further away she drifts, and the more exhausted you become. This is the common pain of so many men. They believe persistence will eventually touch her heart. But in reality, the harder they try to prove their value, the more they end up being taken for granted. The problem isn't whether you're doing too much or too little. The real problem lies in how you misunderstand the very nature of attraction. Women don't remember you because of the things you constantly do for them. They remember you because of the emotional residue you leave behind when you're not there. It's not about your constant actions. It's about the aftertaste of your presence. When you're always there, always giving, your presence loses its weight. It becomes predictable, ordinary, and eventually forgettable. But when you allow space, when you leave room for silence, that silence etches your presence deeper into her mind. Think about a song. When the music stops, you don't instantly forget it. In fact, sometimes the silence makes the melody echo even louder in your head. People are the same. We don't crave what's always available. We crave what could vanish, what leaves us with emptiness when it's gone. This is where so many men go wrong. They think love is built by constant presence. But the truth is, attraction is born from scarcity, from the ability to make someone feel the emptiness of your absence. When a woman feels your echo in the silence, when her mind wanders back to you without you being there, that's when true attraction begins. It's not easy to accept this. Deep down, men are often taught that they must work harder, prove themselves makan and fight for affection. Yet the more they fight, the more they kill their natural magnetism. Real attraction doesn't come from how often you show up. It comes from knowing when to step back. Ask yourself this: are you turning yourself into a song that plays too long until people want to turn it off? Or are you the melody that stops at the right moment, leaving its echo behind? If you've misunderstood attraction from the very start, then what needs to change in the way you approach women? Chasing only pushes her further away. Have you ever noticed that the more you chase a woman, the faster she seems to move away? That isn't coincidence, it's psychology. The moment you start running after her, you've already placed yourself in the position of the needy one. Your actions are silently saying that you need her more than she needs you. From that very moment, the balance of power tilts completely in her favor. In every relationship, whether you admit it or not, there is always an invisible balance. The one being chased always has more power than the one doing the chasing. When you pour all of your energy into proving, persuading, and holding on, you're handing over all of your strength. And once she senses that imbalance, natural attraction disappears. True value never comes from begging to be acknowledged. If you have to plead for someone to see your worth, it means you no longer believe in it yourself. And women sense this quickly. She no longer sees you as strong or independent. She sees a man clinging for attention, afraid of being abandoned, willing to lose himself just to receive a fraction of her focus. Think back to the times you chased too hard, the constant messages that went unanswered, the times you rearranged your entire life hoping she'd notice, the efforts that only made you predictable and uninteresting. And did you realize that the more you tried to prove yourself, the less she valued you? And the less she valued you, the harder you tried. It's a dangerous cycle that drags you lower with every step you take toward her. Ask yourself this: Have you noticed that the harder you chase, the faster she runs? That's because attraction never grows out of neediness. Attraction comes from the energy of a man who knows his worth and doesn't have to chase to prove it. If chasing only makes you invisible in her eyes, then what truly makes you stand out with strength? That is the shift in perspective that can change the way you understand attraction forever. Silence creates space for imagination. There's a truth most men don't realize. Silence is the most powerful spark for imagination. When you text her constantly, you think you're maintaining connection. In reality, you're making your presence predictable and less valuable. But when you stop, when you allow silence to exist, her mind begins to work. Women don't remember repeated words. They remember the feeling of something unfinished, the gap that makes them ask questions. Why hasn't he texted? What is he doing? Where is he? And who is he with? Those unanswered questions plant curiosity, and curiosity eventually grows into desire. Picture this simple example. You send her 3 dry messages in one day and receive little to no response. Naturally, you feel the urge to send even more, trying to drag her attention back to you. But if instead, you chose silence for 24 hours, the result is often completely different. She notices the absence. She checks her phone for your name. Sometimes, she even initiates the conversation herself, simply because the quiet has created a sense of lack. The key here is understanding that not all silence means distance. Some silence is retreat, but other silence is strength. It's how a man shows he doesn't need to prove his worth through constant presence. He has his own life, his own priorities, and he doesn't revolve around her messages. That very fact makes her think about him more. Silence is not a childish game, nor is it manipulation. It is a conscious choice, an expression of confidence and independence. A man who is strong enough not to rely on words is the man who leaves the deepest echo in a woman's mind. And yet, if silence alone isn't enough, then what truly makes a man unforgettable? Being too available makes you invisible. There's a mistake many men don't realize they're making. They believe being available 24/7 is proof of love and care. They cancel personal plans just in case she calls. They respond to messages instantly, no matter how busy they are. They show up like a shadow, hoping that constant devotion will make her appreciate them. But in reality, the opposite happens. The more predictable you are, the more boring you become. The easier you are to get, the less value you hold. In human psychology, what comes too easily is never cherished. People crave what is difficult to obtain. They treasure what is rare, and they respect what isn't always available. When you are always ready at her convenience, you unknowingly lower yourself, turning into the easy option instead of the presence she longs for. Take a moment to reflect on yourself. How many times have you skipped important opportunities just to wait for a vague invitation from her? How many times have you replied instantly, only to receive a half-hearted response? How many times have you sacrificed too much, only to be met with indifference? None of this makes her love you more. It only makes you a habit, and habits are easily forgotten. So ask yourself, do you want to be chosen simply because you're convenient, or because you're the one she can't ignore? A man of real value isn't the one who's always available. He's the one who protects his own space and sets limits. Those limits create respect, and respect is what gives birth to true desire. And to become the man she can't overlook. There is a secret most men tend to forget. Mystery fuels desire. There is an invisible power many men forget, and that is mystery. When you hold something back, when you don't rush to reveal everything, when you don't overshare every detail of your life, you give her imagination room to work. And a woman's imagination is often far stronger than any words you could say. A mysterious man makes her wonder. What is he thinking? Where is he going? Who is part of his world? Those unanswered questions create fertile ground for curiosity to grow. And from curiosity comes desire. On the other hand, a man who lays all his cards on the table from the very beginning, no matter how sincere, soon turns the story into something predictable and boring. Think about a novel. If the ending is revealed on the very first page, would you still feel the urge to keep reading? You might skim a few chapters out of habit, but the excitement is gone. But a story that leaves space for imagination, that knows how to pull you in with mystery, is the kind of story you can't put down. Relationships are no different. What she truly craves isn't what's already secure in her hands, but what remains just out of reach, what she doesn't fully understand yet. Mystery doesn't mean being fake or playing games. It means being authentic, but not needing to expose everything just to seek validation. It means allowing her curiosity to grow on its own, allowing desire to build naturally without forcing it. But mystery alone isn't enough. Because if you still fall into the trap of competing for her attention, all the value of that mystery will quickly vanish. Stop entering a competition that doesn't exist. Many men fall into a subtle trap. They see other men around her and immediately feel the need to stand out. They text her faster, show up more often, try to be funnier, more charming, more impressive, competing in a contest that, in reality, never existed. But the more you do this, the more you turn yourself into a follower, never the center. The moment you put yourself in a position of competition, you silently admit that your value is not obvious enough to shine on its own. You begin acting as if her attention is some rare trophy you must fight for, as if you need to outdo others to win it. And from that mindset, you lose your calm, your confidence, and the natural magnetism of a man who knows his worth. A man of real value doesn't need to push his way through a crowd. He doesn't need to shout to be noticed. He simply exists in his true nature. His presence alone is enough to set him apart. And that presence is the most convincing, most powerful statement he can make. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you felt the urge to prove yourself more when you saw her surrounded by others? How many times have you tried to win a game that only made you look less dignified? And how many times did you forget that value never needs comparison? It only needs to be lived, calmly and unapologetically. And if you stopped running in this imaginary race, if you stood still with composure and certainty, wouldn't it be her who eventually has to step toward you? Confidence is the primal attraction. Among all the qualities that draw women in, one always rises above the rest: confidence. Many men mistakenly believe that love, care, or sacrifice is what makes her truly feel something. But the truth is, women respond far more strongly to confidence than to any expression of affection. Love can come from many places, but confidence can only come from a man who truly knows who he is. A man doesn't have to be the most handsome, the wealthiest, or the most impressive on paper. Yet when he carries an unshakable belief in himself, the entire room changes the moment he walks in. He doesn't need an introduction. He doesn't need to force attention. Eyes naturally turn toward him, especially women's. That confidence is like light in a dark room. It doesn't need an invitation or an explanation. Everyone simply gravitates toward it. On the other hand, love without confidence is nothing more than dependency. It's when you cling to her for validation, when you need her presence to feel like you matter. That dependency eventually becomes a burden. It makes her see you not as a pillar of strength, but as someone who constantly needs support. That kind of love doesn't inspire desire, it drains it. Look around in real life. There are men who aren't the best looking or the richest, and yet women are drawn to them. Why? Because they move with certainty. They speak with a steady voice. They make decisions without hesitation or the need for approval. That is the primal magnetism women sense on an instinctive level. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not claiming you're better than everyone else. It's a quiet but unshakable state of being, where you know you can stand alone and don't need agreement to validate your worth. That grounded energy is what pulls women in, because deep down they long to be close to a man whose presence cannot be shaken. And yet, even confidence sometimes isn't enough. Because there is one fear more powerful than attraction itself, and that fear is what truly makes a woman want to hold on to you. The fear of loss is the strongest awakening. People only truly recognize the value of something when they face the risk of losing it. As long as it's always there, we take it for granted, sometimes even dismiss it. But the moment there's a sign it might slip away, worry and fear rise to the surface. The same is true in love. If you are always there, always available, she has no reason to think deeply about you. But when you begin to pull back your presence, when you are no longer a guarantee, she starts to feel the emptiness and wonders what she might be losing. Think of something simple. Breathing is something we never pay attention to when it happens normally. We inhale and exhale without ever considering it a gift. But the instant we suddenly lose our breath, we realize just how precious it is. Affection works the same way. Only when a man is no longer there as a certainty does a woman begin to recognize his true value. This doesn't mean you should play cold or create distance as a game. It means you must have enough self-respect not to make yourself an easy option. When you live a life where your presence holds weight, your absence becomes a powerful reminder that you are not to be taken for granted. And it's that very fear that jolts her awake. In that moment, her mind begins to circle around questions. Where is he? Is someone else getting his attention? Am I losing something rare that I may never find again? Those questions are what make her realize how important you truly are. And at that very point, only one kind of man has the power to make her feel true regret. The strength of letting go. There is a clear difference between a nice guy and a mature man. The nice guy is afraid to let go. He fears losing her, fears being left behind, fears silence and emptiness. So he clings, he pleads, he lowers himself just to hold on to a relationship that is already breaking apart. But what he's holding on to is no longer real love, it's simply the fear of loneliness disguised as affection. The mature man is different. He understands that sometimes the very act of walking away is the clearest proof of self-respect. He doesn't need to beg to stay, nor does he need to prove his worth through submission. He is strong enough to accept that if someone no longer sees his value, then his presence there has no meaning. True strength isn't measured by how much you can hold on to, but by whether you can let go without losing yourself. It's the state of knowing that your value doesn't depend on another person, that you don't need to cling to anyone to feel complete. This ability to release is what creates inner freedom, and from that freedom, you become far more attractive than any attempt to prove your worth. Imagine a river. It never tries to hold on to anyone's hand. It simply flows gentle or fierce according to its nature. And those who are meant to stay, those who truly desire it, will choose to step into its current. Love works the same way. You cannot hold someone by clinging tighter. If she wants to stay, she will stay. If she wants to leave, your grip will only wound you further. Because in the end, what you seek is not just love. What you truly seek is peace, freedom, and the ability to remain yourself without losing your dignity. And only when you dare to let go can you finally touch that strength. Freedom without validation. The ultimate goal of a man is not to make women miss him, but to reach the state where he no longer needs anyone's validation to affirm his worth. As long as you live through the eyes of others, you will always be chained by their expectations and their judgments. But when you find freedom within yourself, you no longer need anyone's approval to know that you are enough. True value does not come from admiration or praise. It doesn't depend on whether someone is applauding you or staying silent. Real value comes from the solid strength you build within, from the ability to stand firm in life whether you are supported or completely alone. When you reach this state, you become a man who cannot be shaken by either compliments or criticism. Think of a mountain. It does not grow taller because of praise, nor does it shrink because of silence. It stands majestic simply because of what it is. So it is with you. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. By living true to your real worth, your very presence becomes the clearest proof of all. This is only the beginning. There are many more truths about female psychology and the strength of a mature man waiting for you to discover. If you don't want to miss them, stay with this journey.